Welcome, Brandon.
How you doing, brother?
Doing great.
Hey, this is a beautiful setup you got here.
Appreciate
I'm
that.
jealous. I want it. Let me just take it.
I told you, we can. Everything's negotiable. We'll work on rent.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I want to hop right into things because we got a great list of questions that I know our audience will want to hear from you. So we're going to start with a little bit of background. I know a lot of people that will be listening to us know of you, but let's get to know the real you that I've gotten to know over the years. Oh, and I wanted to say also, being a loving husband and father of 5 children, your life never slows down.
How do we make that happen? I don't know. And my wife, she's crazy. She wants more kids. I think I'm done. I'm out. I'm tapped out pretty much.
Well, how old's the youngest again?
7 months.
7 months, right. So you're a month behind us on our youngest one.
And if you remember, I was scheduled to come in to do a vasectomy just like you, right?
And that didn't happen.
She told me if I went and got the vasectomy that I should just go to the courthouse and get divorce papers because she's done. I had it all. This same day, I had to call Dr. Nettleman and say, yo, I can't even come in.
See, that's funny because I think my wife would have divorced me if I didn't get it done. So, yeah. All right. So now that we got the vasectomy talk out of the way, let's go into background. Let's go back to like growing up. What are 1 or 2 life events from your past, whether it was grade school, high school, or even at UW, that taught you the importance of being ambitious and never surrendering?
Yeah, one of the earliest memories I have, one of the things that happened in my life was when I was 12, my grandfather passed away. So my father's father passed away, and this was my pawpaw. And so he was an older gentleman. He smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. He grew up in Mississippi on a farm. Had 4 or 5 brothers. 4 brothers, my uncles. And he was just really cool to me. He always drove a Crown Victoria, brand new. Listened to blues, so he would blues and jazz. And so when I would be with him, I'd be sitting in the car just learning about Bobby Blue Bland and B.B. King and all these jazz musicians and blues singers. And he just was a great person to just kind of hang around, and being a little kid and you got your grandpa, so that's really cool. But when he passed when I was 12, it was something that changed my life. I cried. I said I cried almost every tear that I possibly could cry from like 12 to 13, just thinking about him all the time. And so, just looking at how he never was able to see me play high school football or college football or NFL football was something that just always inspired me to keep reaching for new heights, to kind of think that he's in heaven and looking down and just making him proud because he's not there to actually see it in this earth suit, in this earth body, was something that I always thought about, something that I always strive for. And it really, really pushed me to focus. Even that's like, so I'm not saying that I'm just this great guy or anything, but I've never smoked like weed, tobacco, anything. And it was because he died I don't even think he had cancer. Like he literally went in a hospital one day and the next day he was gone. But I do know he smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So I'm going to assume that it was something cancer related because I went in and seen him. He had lost like 100 pounds in a day that I came and seen him. And then I left. And then the next morning my mom says, hey, he's gone. And so that just changed my life. It made me not want to smoke, obviously. And so that was something that I kind of stood on for my whole, existence, is like trying to do the right things and trying to live up to this standard that I don't even think he set for me when he was here, but just living up to a standard that I thought he would want me to live up to. And so that was one of the moments in my life, man, that really changed my life.
Well, I know I can certainly say that he's looking down proud on you and all that you accomplished, even though he wasn't there for a lot of it. But do you know? So that was 12 years old. Do you know of about what age that you feel like you could look back on and say, "This is when I started forming that mindset for success"?
Wow. I would say I would lump competitiveness and success in those terms together when I was an adolescent, because I would say when I was 7 years old is when I really started to understand, like, to be successful, you have to compete. To be known as one of the best, you have to compete. And I remember vividly when I was 7 years old, one of my first football practices, you had to do sprints at the beginning and end of practice. And it was like four people who were faster than me. And so I was like, hold up. I don't know how fast I was. I never ran competitively at that point. I was only 7, but I knew I couldn't beat these guys running. And these are guys who eventually become like lifelong friends. So it wasn't like I wanted to beat them. But at that moment, I was like, yo, I got to get faster because Jason is beating me. Little G, Gary is beating me. And I want to run as fast as they are. So from that moment, I was super competitive from the first football practice, 7 years old, Matthew Dickey Boys Club. And we just out there running in the summer heat and really having fun. But I was thinking, like, I can't let them beat me again. So from 7 years old, it was time to get with it.
Yeah. So what do you think growing up was the difference, or playing with people that had that mindset and those that didn't? Because I imagine those guys that you're talking about, Little G, just as competitive as you.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between some of those guys and yourself and those that didn't have the mindset for success?
Well, guys like that who recognize at a young age that they want to win, they want to be champions, it matters. And not just being on a team or being around the guys or the fellas. It matters the level of preparation. It matters how I look when I do it. It matters that I show up on time. It matters that I get to practice and finish a drill and finish, and not be last and not lollygag. To other people who, maybe don't see that as where they want to compete at, it doesn't matter to them. It's just not as important. And I'm not saying one or the other is good or bad. I'm just saying your values shape what you do in life. And I valued competing, and I valued being on time, and I valued being a champion and winning at 7 years old. And I guess that was kind of instilled in me because I grew up with my uncles, and two of my uncles made it all the way up to the semi-pro level, and they both still coach now. They're in their late 50s, and they both are still high school. They've coached high school and college ranks their whole career, but going to their semi-pro games, and one of my uncles was a linebacker, and he used to have bone crusher on his face mask. This is when they used to put tape on their face mask to design it, and he wrote bone crusher, and so he used to like tear people up. I always used to say I'm like a linebacker and a receiver in a little man's body. I was like, if I was ever 6'1", 240, somebody was gonna feel the pain. You know what I mean? But I never got that big, so not too many people felt the pain, right? But that was just a mentality. Like, you were trying to win. I was not going outside in 100-degree weather, running, sweating, getting myself in shape just to be out there. No, I'm not doing that. So if I'm going to put myself in these conditions, it will be fruitful. I will make sure that something comes of it.
So you touched on values. I want to go into that a little bit more, because I think those are absolutely crucial to life. If you don't know who you are and what you stand for, there's so many problems that can ensue from that. So for you, what were the influences that instilled some values in you, and then outside of those influencers that were in your life, what values have you come to take on as your own?
Yeah.
Or possibly even that you want to pass down to your kids now?
That's really a good question. One of the things when I speak, and I'm speaking on topics of family or whatever, I always talk about how I grew up. So I was the oldest on both sides of the family. So I was the first grandchild, the oldest cousin, like the first nephew and stuff like that. So I was truly raised by a village. And so I took a little piece of everybody. And so hard work really came from one of my grandmothers. It came from both of them, but one of my grandmothers, she still works today. She's in her late 70s. She's been on a job for 40. I think she had her 40th anniversary on her job like 3 years ago. So, and she works in a factory, standing on her feet for 8 hours a day, fixing stuff, putting stuff together in a factory, in a plant. And so, and she don't complain about it. But that type of hard work, she goes to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, gets off at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So she's up early every single day for 40 years. She's also active in local politics. She's active in her union. She's been secretary and stuff like that in her union, been a leader in the union. So this is a woman with 5 kids. And so just watching her do that on her own, be a survivor, just let me know, like, you don't have a choice in this matter. You have to do that. You have to be like that. And then my other grandma on the flip side is the most loving, caring, sharing, down to earth people that I have ever met. When you just talk about somebody who you just look at and say, what could she possibly do to harm somebody? You just say nothing. It's nothing I think she could do. In my eyes, she could do no wrong, right? But just getting both sides of the table, hard work, and then caring about people, because, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is all about love. And Paul is talking about love is the glue of everything. You can have gifts of the Spirit to speak in tongues, to prophesy, to preach, to do all that stuff, but it doesn't matter if it's not in love or with love, in Jesus Christ and God our Savior. So if that's not at the center of it, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And so I think the hard work plus the love just was a great mix for me, because those values can stand the test of time. Those are statutes that stand the test of time, and character, that if you have those two pieces, if you're loving and you're a hardworking person, I don't think you can fail in life. Like, you literally cannot fail. You may not go as far as you thought or as far as somebody else thinks that you should, but you will have a successful life if you have hard work and love, period.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's something our society needs a heck of a lot more right now.
Yeah.
With how politicized we are, and social media, and just kind of buried our heads in the sand, and not just reaching out to our neighbors. And you think about the worst events, the tragedies that occur. And Madison experienced a minor one last week, right, with the flooding. Mm-hmm. But you think about 9/11, you think about all these things, and people don't think, hey, you Democrat, Republican? No, you get in and help.
Right.
You a Christian or an atheist? No, you get in and help.
You're a human being.
It's about love. That's love. That's when it's kind of sad that our society, it takes the worst to bring out our best, and that's really sad. But hopefully we can continue to preach on that. And you, with all your speaking events, I know you'll bring it out of people.
Yeah, man.
So let's go to UW. We got a lot of Badger fans. I know they'll listen. What were some of your biggest takeaways? I mean, you came in with a lot of success. I mean, you're all Big Ten freshman. I think was second team All-American freshman year.
Yeah.
I mean, so you came in with a lot of accolade, or you came in, kind of took our receiving corps by storm, the Killer Bees, and had a great career at UW. What were some of your biggest takeaways of playing at UW? Maybe some of the influences there as well.
Yeah, my freshman year, when I first came in my freshman year, it was 5'9", 156 pounds.
Yeah, program had you at 5'10".
Oh yeah, I was almost 6 foot. Yeah. Reality, I was almost 6 foot, 190 pounds my whole career, right?
Programs do that.
Yeah, they tend to lean toward making you bigger. But I was 156 pounds, came in. Nobody expected me to do anything. Like, let's be honest. First and foremost, even on my recruiting trip when I first was getting recruited, I had to talk Coach Alvey into giving me a scholarship. I had to demand a scholarship, use the gift of gab to get a scholarship. And I just told him how much I wanted to be a Badger and how much I wanted to be here. And, you know, with any organization, if you have somebody that's willing to come in and say, I want to be here, like, I don't want to be anywhere else, I'm not thinking about going anywhere else, you find a place in your organization for a person like that. You figure out what skill set they can bring to the table and say, well, guess what? You're going to be here because you want to be here. So I'm going to make room for you. And that's what Coach Alvarez did. That's one thing about Coach Alvarez, man. He showed me a lot when it comes to just believing in people and believing and trusting that something good can come out of giving somebody an opportunity. And so he gave me an opportunity, and still the whole coaching staff was like, look, like, the reality is we play in the Big Ten. He's going to have to block over 300 times a season. How is he going to stand up? And so that was already kind of on my back coming in. Smaller guy. And like I said, I wanted to be like a linebacker anyway. I thought in my head I could just come in smashing cats like a linebacker, but just knowing my limitations with my body, I had to figure out how to use my body in the Big Ten, blocking linebackers, blocking safeties, blocking corners who were really 6'1", 6 foot, 200 something pounds, right? And so my first year, freshman year at camp, I can remember I made like this one-handed catch in camp. And
before the sticky gloves.
Way before. I didn't even have, you know what, in high school, my senior year, most of my years in high school, I didn't wear gloves. I used to get my fingers taped like Tim Brown in the web. That was my favorite thing. I was like Tim Brown and put on the tape on each one of the little knuckles, and then I'd be out there just snagging stuff. So that was my thing. Nobody else in the city was doing that. So I was like standing out, right? But once I got to college, and started wearing gloves, whatever. So I caught this one-handed pass, made this one-handed catch in practice, and Coach John Palermo, JP, ran out and was like, "That's what I'm talking about, you, yeah." And he was hyped. And this is the D-line coach. Uh-huh. And you know how it is, man. Once you get the respect of the D-line coach, it's over. It's over. So he was excited and hyped. And from that moment, I was like, whoa, like, I belong. I'm making some headway. They believe in me now. And so from that moment, it was just all about putting in the work and learning and understanding. And Coach Henry Mason, man, he was another guy who started to believe in me more, started giving me opportunities, really grinded on me to make sure I knew what the heck I was out there doing. And remember, Lee Evans had just torn his ACL in the spring. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know who Lee Evans was. I came in, I really did not understand, like, the brevity of Lee Evans. Dude was a stud. Yeah. He was a stud the year before he tore his ACL. And I didn't even really know who he was. And then he tore his ACL, and I was like, why is everybody crying about Lee Evans turning his ACL? I'm here. Do you guys not see that I'm here, right? Just so out of touch. But, came in as a freshman, man, did my thing, played through some injuries. I probably should have took a red shirt year. Now that I look back in retrospect, that junior year I should have took a red shirt because the production dropped off because I had just come off of surgery on my leg, and so I wasn't ready. But I just going out there, rushing out there, trying to fight through stuff, and then coming back senior year, I led the Big Ten in receiving that year, and still was second team Big Ten. I'm like, how does that happen? I don't know, but whatever. And so I loved my time here. That's why I'm back here, because the people were great, the staff was great. Coach Paul Chris was awesome. He was offensive coordinator my senior year, and we just tore it up. John Stocko, Jonathan Orr, Owen Daniels, Brian Calhoun. We just had so much fun. The Hebrew Hammer, Matt Bernstein. Just had fun, man. And so I loved my time here, and it shaped me. You once you go to the NFL, you had a reputation as being a Badger. They knew that you come in and you worked. You worked in the weight room because John Detman is a well-known strength and conditioning coach, and so they just gave you some respect when you first got there, and so it was cool.
Yeah, and they continue to talk about that, how we're not recruiting the 5-star athletes all the time. We may get a couple here or there, but usually that's a rarity.
And you know what's so crazy about that right now is that the tide is turning. Mm-hmm. We are starting to get those 5-star athletes who want to come to UW. So you put that with the type of strength program we have
and the work ethic.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be crazy.
Watch out, world! Badgers are coming. All right, so this is something that my football career never took me down, but my talent wasn't there. So you get to go to the NFL. Not only go to the NFL, you were drafted. Describe that feeling. Describe that phone call and the feeling you have when you're drafted to a team in the NFL.
Yeah, it was a crazy day because I always tell the story of how my aunt, she called me at like 7:00 in the morning and she was like, when are you gonna get drafted? Which pick? And I'm like, yeah, if I knew that, I wouldn't be so have so much anxiety in trying to anticipate. But I hope the first pick. Like, let's just go and get it out the way, right? And so I was like, I don't know, whatever. Why are you asking me this? It doesn't really matter. She was like, okay, well, what year were you born? And I'm like, okay, 1984. She's like, oh, you're going to be the 84th pick. I'm like, all right, whatever you smoking right now, please put it down and just come to my house so we can have this draft party, right? But that's when the draft, the first 3 days, the first 3 rounds were all on the first day.
Yep.
And so this was a long day. We started at, I want to say, noon, and I didn't get drafted till like 8:45. And sure enough, I was the 84th pick in the 2006
I hope she
draft.
bought a lottery ticket that day.
I wish she would have bought a lottery ticket. It would have helped all of us. But I was the 84th pick. I was almost. My agent had got a few calls from some teams at 81, 82, and then 84 came up, and the 49ers gave me a call. Coach Mike Nolan was on a call my cell. I was talking to him. And I was in a room kind of secluded from the party, so nobody knew. So I just kind of, and then, it's the tape delay or whatever. So I just kind of walked out casually into the room and just saying what's up to everybody. And then just kind of standing there waiting for the pick to be called. And, it was just static. It was just crazy once, my name came across the screen and San Francisco, because I grew up a huge San Francisco 49er fan. Me and my uncle, that's one of the things that we kind of love. Not my uncle that played football, but I had another uncle who went to the Air Force and was a air marshal and was a director for TSA now and just doing some really amazing things for the government. But he was a huge 49ers fan. He used to send me 49er T-shirts every year. He lived out on the East Coast for his whole pretty much professional career, so he would always send me 49er T-shirts. And so that was our bond together, and he was there. Like, all of my family was at this party, so he was excited. He was happy. We were just having fun, man. It was surreal. It's surreal. Something you worked for since you was 7 years old. My uncle always used to say, you put in 8 years of hard work, you make $1 million. So high school, college, and it happened. It's like, whoa, like, you actually did it. And then my brother did the same thing after me 7 years later. So this might be the blueprint. I had to tell my uncle to write a book or something.
Right.
But yeah, it was surreal, man. You can't even describe it. The time in the league was so much fun. It went by so fast. You wish there were so many different things that you could do over, change, do this, whatever. But God has a plan, and if once you start being obedient, you'll understand what that plan is. And so I'm just happy that it happened.
So we're talking about reaching for the stars today, and for, I think, any kid, any young boy that straps on football pads, that's a dream. That's landing,
most certainly.
That's landing on the moon for young football players, whether they're putting on pads today or that was in their pastime. That's something that we all strive. We want to make it to the NFL. Very few are blessed. I think the last stat I heard was that less than 1% of high school players make it to any collegiate level, and less than 0.5% of collegiate college football players make it to the NFL. Yeah. So you make that. So describe the feeling, if you can, of accomplishing something so great. You landed on the moon, essentially, making it to the NFL, but also knowing you can't rest on your past accomplishments. You still got to work.
Yeah, you got to work big time. I mean, that's the thing that becomes a reality really quick. You're excited about the opportunity. You're excited about, and the big check you're about to get, but it's really time to go. It's time to turn it up to another level, another notch, because you're playing against the best of the best. And for me, I mean, I was small. I'm still small compared to these guys. So how can I separate myself? How can I figure out what's my niche? Where do I fit in? And I think, look, the reality is when I got drafted by the 49ers, I didn't fit in to what they wanted to do on offense. I didn't. So for me, it started to question, like, well, why did you guys draft me? I mean, if you're going to draft a guy like me, you probably want to have a plan, because I'm not 6'3", 200-some pounds where you can just plug and play at anywhere on the field, whatever you want to do. You should know what you want to do with a guy who's 5'10", 175 pounds coming into the league. You should have a plan. They had no plan. The plan was just let me return kicks. And I'm like, well, that plan sucks. That's not what I want to do. So it was already like a mental battle of like, why am I not getting an opportunity to actually catch passes, which is what I can do really well. And I'm doing it really well in practice, but I'm not getting the opportunity to do it in a game. And so first year already stressed, already like feeling inadequate, feeling like, what am I doing here? I don't even belong. You're looking at other guys on other teams that you got drafted with. I'm looking at Greg Jennings. He's with Brett Favre, having fun and catching passes. His rookie year, he was really good. I'm looking at other receivers that I'm like, hey, they're playing on other teams. They're at least getting in the games, and I'm like literally not getting in the game, and I'm just upset. I'm really upset, and so that kind of plays tricks on your mind. And so once you start to get upset, you're not as focused. You're not as focused. And then when you're in the NFL, you're isolated. It's not like college where everybody's your friend. In the NFL, you don't really have friends unless some guys you played in college with or on the team. It's just a really isolated space. And I'm really like an introvert anyway. I just have extrovert qualities. So I love talking to people, connecting with people. But if I don't have to talk to people, I'm good, right? So I'm in the locker room, you got guys who got kids, got family, got different priorities. I don't really mesh well with the guys that are, not that I didn't get along with them. I get along with pretty much everybody, but they just weren't interested in the things that I was interested in, like as far as the rookie class. So I would just kind of hang out by myself and be quiet to myself, whatever. And so it was tough. It was just a tough situation being out there and not really having anybody to lean on. So you're just out there.
So now you get the gift of hindsight, right? Those are your years removed. What do you wish you would have had? What do you wish you would have done differently now that you hit that pinnacle?